Freeman, what's the biggest task Ken Cockrell's going to face when he takes over tomorrow?
I think the biggest task is wrestling with the budget deficit, Jack. As you well know, it's been 7 years since we've seen a balanced budget in the city of Detroit. And frankly, until a legitimate audit of the books are done, we really won't know whether that deficit is $100 million, $200 million, or what that happens to be. So that is probably the biggest issue, is finding out exactly where we stand with our budget. And then figuring out how we change the conversation to start generating revenue to provide services in our neighborhoods.
Well, the circumstances were a little different, but when Dennis Archer and your team came into office on New Year's Day 1994, you also had to hit the ground running, right?
That's exactly right, Jack. And one of the first things that we did, we almost sequestered ourselves in a way. And immediately, you remember the symbolism of walking from the mayor's office into the budget director's office and hunkering down, opening up the books and finding out again exactly where we stood from a fiscal and financial standpoint so that we would know what we had to work with and how we're going to provide those important services to our city, especially when it comes to police, fire, and EMS.
What's the most important thing the interim mayor needs to do to reassure the people of Detroit and the state of Michigan?
I think he's doing the right things right now. You probably know, it was reported in the news yesterday, that his first appointment in the name of one Saul Green is a very, very important statement of his ability to attract a very, very high caliber of professional person, respected in the community, with a reputation of integrity and honesty. But that's just one appointment. There are many, many appointments, and I think all eyes are going to be on Mr. Cockrell as he identifies a police chief, a fire commissioner, who's going to run his finance and budget departments, and, of course, who's going to head up economic development and buildings and safety engineering. But it goes much beyond that, Jack. Having the experience of knowing what it's like to run those departments and oversee and manage them and push results out into the community is especially important. And, of course, having a vision that's going to sort of turn the status quo on its head and start focusing more in neighborhoods, more on the residents and taxpayers in the city, and less on the downtown focus that we've seen, especially over the last several years.
Detroit faces a uniquely odd situation next year in that the city will have 4 votes for mayor. First a primary in February and a regular election in May to fill the rest of the Kilpatrick term, and then a primary in September and a regular election again in November for a 4-year term. Does having that many elections in a few short months make sense?
Well, you know what? There's certainly an argument that the cost for doing that is something that the city can't afford. But you know, Jack, and you've been a long, hard advocate for this country and this state and this city being driven by laws and not by politics or people. And the charter is very clear that upon a vacancy of the office of mayor, the council president shall assume the position on an interim basis until the people elect another mayor. The person who sits in that seat, even on a short-term basis from May through the end of December, should have the full faith and confidence of the people. And the only way you can measure that is by gaining the vote and earning that office.
We ought to note that you narrowly lost the mayoral election to Kwame Kilpatrick in 2005. You're now chief of governmental relations for your alma mater, Eastern Michigan. Are you thinking of running again for mayor of Detroit?
I am, Jack, and I tell you that this is no exaggeration. A day hasn't gone by since that election in 2005 where somebody hasn't come up to me and don't bring up that election in 2005. But we struck an emotional chord of hope and opportunity that people latched into, not just in the city of Detroit, but throughout the region and even as places as far as Holland and Gaylord, Michigan. And so, I'm making moves around the city of Detroit, meeting with clergy, meeting with labor, meeting with community-based organizations, and taking a temperature check in the way that I like to do it, bottom up at the community and grassroots level, to find out if Detroiters have an appetite for my brand of leadership.
Freman Hendrix, thank you, sir.